Good morning. Delighted to be here today at Productronica Delhi 2026 with my dear friend Mr. Shashwath, the founder and CEO of Mindgrove Technologies. How are you today, Shashwath?
I'm doing good.
How's the program been for you so far?
The program has been interesting. Electronica, Productronica is always our favorite event to attend.
Excellent. You really, the nation is watching Mindgrove as one of India's first indigenous microprocessor companies. The awareness is growing, and we wish you all the very best. But given the increasing focus on data sovereignty in India, especially in critical sectors like Aadhaar biometrics and surveillance systems, how do you see indigenous chip design playing a role in securing national infrastructure over the next decade?
So let's just take the first one, right? Aadhaar. It turns out that the biometrics and the security you need for the biometrics, the privacy laws that we have in India are the same whether you're doing 100 rupees of rations or crores of transfer using RBI's rules. So you have a challenge where you need the same security across something which costs $2 and something which costs $2 million. And the challenge of scale over there is something that you can only address by designing to the problem. And the kind of people who can design to the problem are the people who are closest to the problem, who are Indian manufacturers and Indian designers. And so I think the fact that we know the lay of the land, the fact that we know what is going on and we get better information actually makes us more competitive over here. And the fun part of it is that some of India's procedures in these processes in these places are so advanced that they're being used around the world. So that means that we have a market outside also, just by having done it in India.
Thank you. So are you telling me that when we're talking about Aadhaar, which is India specific, for example, and with the Mindgrove chip, is it correct for me to ask that you have security inbuilt, which is unique and specific for India? So isn't that a unique selling proposition and a differentiator?
Yeah, it's not unique in the sense that, it's an AES or an RSA or a SHA or whatever. Those are not unique. But what becomes unique is how you put them together to meet a particular cost target and to meet a particular deployment target. So I keep pushing back on the idea of having a single unique feature. I think that you need to have a plethora of features, and the uniqueness is in how you put it together for a particular purpose. The fitness for purpose is the uniqueness of the product. And the fitness for purpose is something that, being an Indian company, we have a lot more insight into how the Indian ecosystem, the Indian customer needs it. And I think that is where the India value comes into play.
Well, the market is certainly huge for that, with 1.4 billion people. So I think it's a good starting point and a good anchor destination. With ongoing global supply chain disruptions and geopolitical shifts, how important is it for countries to build self-reliant semiconductor ecosystems? And where do you see Mindgrove contributing to this transition?
This would not have been my first choice. I think semiconductors is by its very nature a very global ecosystem. And it really is a wonderful thing where we get to work with a lot of people from around the world on a lot of things. But it's not just a question of sovereignty in terms of your data sovereignty and things like that. It's supply chain sovereignty today. And if we're not able to get the raw material we need to push our economy, our growth, or our standard of living, then we need to take matters into our own hands. So again, we have billions of devices. Even if you take like 1.4 billion people and one device each, it's 1.4 billion devices. And you're talking about at least like 10 devices each, right? You're talking about 10, 15, 20 billion devices that you need. And I think establishing an Indian ecosystem for all of this, as far as India is concerned, because of our market size and the complexity and the diversity of our market, I think the India specific answer to your question is um, we do need it. It's critical for the rest of our growth. You can't expect this many people to rely on an external source for something so critical.
Yeah. And that's where mind growth plays a critical part, because
We-
the brain of the
Yeah.
of the system is something we need to take
And
our
I
matters
think
in our own
I
hands.
think I'd like to touch over here. Actually, let's segue slightly into talking a little bit about RISC-V over here. I know you want to talk about a little more, but
Thank you.
the important thing over here about RISC-V is that it is something that you can make very specific in terms of the microarchitecture or the design. So for those who don't know, RISC-V is a standard for how do you build a microprocessor. And it's only a standard which tells you how the interaction with the outside world happens. The internal design is up to us. And Mindgrove uses exclusively RISC-V in all our processors. So it allows us to play with the microarchitecture. It allows us to play with the implementation while keeping the external interfaces constant, so that you can meet other targets which are not necessarily how the processor talks to the rest of the world. Things like power, things like speed, things like security, side channel protections. Um, those kind of things are easier to do when you have end-to-end control over your implementation, and that allows us to build that local ecosystem while remaining connected to the globe. I
No,
think
it's
that's
very
what's
clear.
important.
No, I completely understand. The power envelope, the performance envelope, the security envelopes, when that's not in your hands,
Yeah,
you end up waiting, or you may not get it.
you may not
or
get
you
it.
might have to do a workaround, or you're going to have to kludge. Here you have matters into your own hand.
Yes.
So speed, and also you can make it specific for applications also.
Yes.
And that's very critical. And if you have a general purpose, it may not get to you the specificity that you need, for example, the India market.
Yeah, and that is actually something that we struggle with the India market, right? The market is huge, but it's fragmented.
Yeah.
Vertically, horizontally, every way you want to slice it, there's a fragmentation. So if you build a specific chip, too specific, it becomes deployable only in a very small pocket. If you make it too generic, its one size doesn't exactly fit anybody.
It's like a sledgehammer for a small nail or something. It's
Yeah.
overkill in certain cases sometimes.
No, so you don't need to bring it specific. But how do you do that? How do you build something which is generic enough that you can adapt it
Yeah.
to be specific for a particular use case?
Yeah.
And those are the kind of questions that we are trying to answer in terms of the way that we design our products.
Excellent. Thank you. When designing chips for sectors like IoT, automotive, or smart infrastructure, how do you ensure that products built in India are globally relevant and competitive across different regulatory and performance environments?
So I'll take the example of security. It turns out this is a small story, right? The US government, NIST rather, came out with FIPS 140-2, I think 15, 20 years ago. FIPS 140-2 was picked up by the ISO and it became an ISO standard. Turns out that FIPS 140-3 is the ISO standard 19790 adapted back to the way NIST likes to do things. So this is a very technical answer. It turns out that the Indian government accepts 19790 as well as FIPS. So you find the most generic standard that there is and try to build around that. And then create enough customization points in your design and in your documentation. A lot of it's actually documentation, it's not the design. A lot of it is how you test. I have to do a particular test for it to be valid in, let's say, one particular geography. But the system remains the same. So finding that out, that process of discovery is something we have actually been doing over the last year. And we found a lot of places where you can actually slightly move on the standard. Sometimes you can design to the standard earlier. And sometimes you can actually adapt to the standard using firmware customizations or board level customizations, something, packaging customizations. And I think one important point to emphasize here is that the Indian ecosystem is growing to the point where these customizations are actually viable today. And I can actually do the entire thing in India. I can do a lot of the certification in India, at least the base work. And then you just have to go get a update for different geographies or different global requirements.
Fantastic. I remember your earliest days just before tape out, before DLI, before approvals as a startup, and the evolution and the growth and the maturity that I'm seeing now from when it was is wonderful to see.
It's been a hard learning curve.
But that to me means that you are now a trailblazer and a leader. And with that, in my opinion, comes, irrespective of your age, it comes with responsibility. I think the future is going to be looking up to you as a role model, and they'll be watching every step you make. So as we conclude this podcast, I wanted to ask you, what is your call to action? What is the clarion call for young entrepreneurs looking to use open source RISC-V? Can we have multiple RISC-V startup companies like Mindgrove living harmoniously, working together?
I think so. I don't see any reason why there should be only one. And, we may be experts in something. Where we like to live is signal processing, vision, and, well, security because security, but signal processing and vision. I mean, I'm not particularly interested in doing certain other things. That's neither my market nor is it my forte. And there is so much scope, all the way from a sub 50-cent microcontroller to something that operates in a data center. And, well, there are 50-cent microcontrollers operating in the data center. Do things like running the cooling system. There is power electronics. And a lot of what we do today, this is something I started right in the beginning. I was telling people that today nobody necessarily wants to sit and build a solid state circuit to do something. You want to run an LED, you get a tiny 8-bit micro, you plop it on, and you generate a PWM signal. It's easier. You don't need to think. And I mean, there is opportunity everywhere from the bottom of the stack to the top of the stack, horizontally as well. I don't see why there shouldn't be. And as you know, RISC-V has been declared a national asset as DIR 5. So the IP is open. There is tape out experience. There are, I think, at least 4 or 5 companies which have taped out now, and God knows how many labs anymore. So I don't see why there should not be more RISC-V startups. If you find something that you want to build and you need a small processor, just consider a RISC-V processor in there.
Yeah.
But more than that, more than just the semiconductor companies, I think there is a huge potential for people building solutions based on RISC-V processors. So everything from IDEs and libraries and porting operating systems. Why don't we have a real-time operating system for India? And that could be RISC-V. I mean, nothing stops us. And as we go down that chain, there are so many other things that you could do. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't just look at it in terms of the silicon. I would look at it in terms of the larger ecosystem, especially the software ecosystem.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity with that. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Shashwath. And the whole country is behind you, as I've said. I'm behind you. I'm one of your biggest fans. And we all wish you best of luck. Thank you so much.